Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fantastic Tuesdays wherever you may be across the country. The U.S. women, the World Cup is officially underway, and as I am going live with you right now, the U.S. women just scored to go up 3-0, effectively ending this threat by Thailand to the extent that there was any threat at all. It is still the first half, about 32 minutes or so into that game. But we have got a major story to unpack that I think is really gripping everybody across the American sporting landscape, and it is how to react to the Kevin Durant injury. That's the only thing I'm going to talk about today, a bunch of different versions of what happened last night, because I did think last night's Game 5 was the equivalent of a season in a game. There was so much going on, so much taking place. We have a lot to unpack from what we saw going on. So let's start here. The internet, if you regularly watch this show or listen to my morning show on Outkick the Coverage nationwide on Fox Sports Radio, or read things that I write at Outkick, and by the way, the anonymous mailbag will be up tomorrow. I had a lot of things. Sorry, nearly died there from a sneeze. I have a lot of things to take care of this morning, so I didn't get a chance to write the mailbag. It'll be up tomorrow. But if you regularly pay attention to what I say, there is a great talk. All right, gonna have to block a guy. Block a man right off the top. He's dead. He's gone forever. There are a lot of discussion points. Let me say this right off the top, because people want to talk about the NBA ratings. NBA ratings stink, all right? NBA ratings in the finals stink. For everybody out there who wants to know about the NBA ratings, they were down 19% over the last Game 5. Some of you are unbelievable in the way that you allow yourself to be spun by people who are incentivized to sell you things that aren't actually true, all right? You got sold a bill of goods. The last time there was an NBA Game 5, the last couple of NBA Game 5s even, the ratings are off 20% from where those have been, all right? The first 4 games in the NBA Finals are the lowest rated first 4 games in the last 12 years as a combined first 4. What the ratings news that ESPN put out, which a bunch of you just lapped up like a bunch of idiots, was they said ratings for Game 5 were up 37% off of the ratings for Game 4, which was the lowest rated NBA Finals Game 4 in 12 years. So the ratings for Game 5 were better. There's a lot of drama, right? It was a close game. I think a lot of people tuned in hoping to see the Warriors lose and the series be over. But they were still down 19% off of the last time that there was a Game 5 in the NBA. So a lot of you got okey-doked. You don't know any better. You're not very smart. You don't look into numbers at all. And you're the equivalent of a hockey player that gets a jersey pulled over your head and you have no idea what's going on. You think it's nighttime outside because somebody pulled the jersey over your head, as opposed to you not having any clue what's going on. All right, so that is the truth of the matter. That is where we are in the grand scheme of things, okay? So, the internet, though, is a huge blame factory. Everything that happens in a social media age is effectively a race to decide who is to blame. And I got a wild hot take for you. Sometimes nobody's to blame. Bad things just happen. Sometimes bad things just happen, all right? And that was what happened last night with the Kevin Durant injury. I don't buy into the conspiracy theory that somehow the Golden State Warriors and their doctors did a bad job. I don't buy into the idea that there was anything at all wrong with the NBA's Golden State Warrior training staff. I don't buy into in any way the idea that there was anything at all wrong with the way that Kevin Durant was put on the court. Okay? Anybody who is buying into that argument, I think, is insane. In fact, all we have to do is go back to Game 3 All right? All we have to do is go back to game 3, and what was the criticism that was out there? The criticism was what? That the Golden State Warriors should have played Klay Thompson and that they were far too worried about his health and they needed him to go because Steph went out and scored 47. Klay Thompson was upset because the Warriors wouldn't sign off on him playing. And what did Steve Kerr come out and say? He came out and said, I would be really upset if we played Klay Thompson in this game. He hurt himself worse and he was lost for the entire series. So, if you are willing to believe that as recently as game 3, the Warriors wouldn't play one of their top stars because of the danger that he might injure himself worse in the NBA Finals, why in the world would you now be of the opinion that they are rushing Kevin Durant back? Worst of all, the blame game presumes that Kevin Durant has no agency himself. I think it often happens where trainers and coaches come to talk to a player and they say, we believe you can go. I think that what happened here was the injury was a result of the prior injury, but you could not have predicted that it was going to happen, because if you could have predicted it was going to happen, Kevin Durant wouldn't have played at all. So, I think Kevin Durant made the decision to go. There's risk in every time you take the court, and clearly that decision ended up being wrong based on the injury. But I don't think that there is anyone to blame. I don't think the Warriors or their doctors or the GM or anybody affiliated with the Warriors would have encouraged that this was going to happen if they had thought that Kevin Durant was in danger. I think, if anything, what they did was misdiagnose the probability of injury, and that's assuming that this isn't just a freakish injury. I don't know enough about Achilles tears, tendon tears, and we don't know officially what the injury is, but let's presume that it is, to know what the odds are that that's going to happen anytime a player takes the court, right? Is it 1 in 5,000? Is it 1 in 10,000? Is it 1 in 20,000? I don't think that there was in any way somebody that has to be responsible for this injury. And I also don't buy into the fact that the Warriors are to blame for it. Now, I will say this. I want to dive into this. There's a lot of talk about Toronto Raptor fans and their reaction the minute that Kevin Durant went down. I am fortunate in that I've been all over the country watching college football games. Do you know how many times watching college football games I have ever heard in my entire life an injured player get cheered in a college football stadium? And many of those times I'm in an SEC football stadium. How many of you out there who have been to an SEC football game where I think the passions run higher than in any other sporting event anywhere in the country? How many times have you ever seen a top player get hurt and an entire stadium cheer over it? I've never heard it. I've never heard it in person. I've never seen it on television. I have never, ever been able to see something like this happen and have everybody in a football stadium cheer for the injury. And so I want you to think about that. There's a lot of people coming out and saying you can't blame Toronto Raptor fans for cheering when Kevin Durant got hurt. I disagree completely with that. I think Toronto Raptor fans should be raked over the coals for this. Their first reaction when they saw Kevin Durant go down was to cheer in the arena, and it wasn't some small smattering of fans. It was a huge segment of their fan base. That, my friends, is unacceptable. And there are a lot of people out there, for whatever reason, that want to carry the water for Toronto. They want to carry the water for Canadians. They want for everybody to think, oh, Toronto's the greatest fans on the planet. I'm here to tell you, this was a Philly cheering for Michael Irvin level move. And the only criticism that I think deserves to come out of the Kevin Durant injury is the way that the Toronto Raptor fans reacted. Now, to be fair, there was no issue whatsoever with the way that the Raptor players reacted on the court. I give them credit. They actually had to tell their own fans to stop cheering. It's one of the most ridiculous things I have ever seen. They had to tell their own fans to stop cheering. The fact that Kevin Durant may well have torn his Achilles because those classless loser Raptor fans were teeing off on an injured player, because the truth of the matter is this: they and everybody else who watched that first quarter and change of the second quarter knew that the only reason the Raptors have a chance to win this series is if Kevin Durant is hurt, because if Kevin Durant were 100% healthy, this would not have even been remotely a close series. The Warriors would have won in 4, or they would have won in 5. That is the truth, and I think that's the reason why the Raptor fans were cheering when Kevin Durant went down. Their natural inclination is, we're going to lose this series. And then as soon as Kevin Durant went down, they cheered because they expected to win the series. That's the truth. So what happens now? What happens now with Kevin Durant? I got the most recent odds that just came out, I believe, hot off the presses. This grouping of where Kevin Durant is going to go. Next team odds. These have all been updated. This just came down. Golden State Warriors now favored 3-2 if you want to bet in offshores to keep Kevin Durant. Knicks 3-2. Clippers 3-1. Lakers 10-1. Nets 10-1. Oklahoma City Thunder 100-1. All right. So I think when you break down this across the board, what's going to end up happening is Golden State is going to keep Kevin Durant. And I think the question the Knicks are going to have to answer is, would they be willing to sign Kevin Durant to a long-term deal, even if they knew he was going to sit out for a year? I don't think that's a risk you can take, even for the Knicks. Durant's going to turn 31 in September. That means he probably will be 32 years old before he ever comes back. The number of players who have come back from severe Achilles tendon injuries and ended up being the same quality of player, I think, are low. I think what happens is he re-ups with the Warriors for 1 year. He may re-up for multiple years with the Warriors, because I think the Warriors at this point in time are obligated to put forward the max offer to him and pay him after what happened in this scenario. I think that's the right thing to do. And so I think it's the most likely that he's going to stay with the Warriors. I don't think the Knicks will take that risk. This means that NBA free agency, which has been much hyped and much ballyhooed for a year, is likely to end with Kevin Durant staying with the Warriors and being injured and not being able to play, with Kawhi Leonard staying with the Toronto Raptors, with Kyrie Irving potentially going to the Knicks or the Nets, and it not actually impacting things one way or the other in any kind of substantial fashion. And the only real uncertainty, which may well be resolved before the NBA draft even gets here, is where does Anthony Davis end up? And I think the overall talent level of the NBA is not going to be shifted that much in the grand scheme of things. So that is where I would suggest that you put all of your attention. The reality is the Warriors now in their series against the Raptors, I don't think have enough horses on the offensive side of the ball to beat the Toronto Raptors. They barely have a player capable of getting into double digits in the third tier, right? They got Steph, they got Clay, they don't have a third threat. Not even a third. DeMarcus Cousins, pale approximation of a third threat right now. You got a lot of guys who are aging their way out. I think when you really break it down, that you look, the Warriors scored 34 in the first quarter with Kevin Durant coming out. They scored 28 in the second quarter, even with Kevin Durant's injury, with him being able to step up and make some big shots. Then they scored 22 in the third, 22 in the fourth. They don't have the horses. I think they find a way to win Game 6, and then I think if they're going to win Game 7, it has to be low scoring, and the Raptors have to fall apart. Crazy stat for you. The Warriors went 20 for 42 from 3. The Toronto Raptors only went 8 for 32, okay? Think about how crazy that is. Again, the Warriors made 22 three-point shots. The Toronto Raptors only made 8. And yet the Warriors only won this game by 1 point. I don't see that continuing. I don't like the Warriors necessarily to win this series unless the Raptors choke it away. So those are my thoughts. I didn't like the ending possessions for the Toronto Raptors. I thought they got bailed out in a big way. The Warriors had the ball up 3. Draymond Green gets the backcourt violation. That's not going to happen very often. The DeMarcus Cousins offensive foul call I thought was crazy to make in that scenario. I didn't like the Nick Nurse timeout with a little bit over 3 minutes to play and the Raptors up 6 with the ball. I understand the logic behind it, but I think in general that was a bad decision down the stretch for the Raptors. And I think if the Raptors end up losing, it's going to be this because the psychology of the game overwhelms them, not because of anything else outside of this. All right, I'm going to go back, watch more of the U.S. women against Thailand. The show is back on FS1 today, 4:30 Eastern if you want to see Rachel Bonnetta cry, 3:30 Central, 2:30 Mountain, 1:30 Pacific. We'll be talking this and a lot more. My name is Clay Travis. Kisses to all of you. This has been Outkick the Show. If you enjoy it, watch Outkick the coverage, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, my radio show, 300 AM FM stations nationwide, all 50 states, satellite radio, everywhere. My name is Clay Travis. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. Kisses. I'll see you guys. Love you. Thank you, Facebook. See y'all.